I'm Prakash Sundaresan, co-founder and CEO of TrustedKey, and we're focused on secure digital identity. So identity is actually a challenging space. And part of the reason why it's a challenging space is identity is not just one problem. It's actually a whole set of related problems that are all difficult. So the first challenge we can talk about in the context of financial institutions is new customer acquisition. Banks today are spending on an average $300 to acquire a new customer. A large part of that goes towards meeting KYC requirements. And of course, millennials don't want to come into a bank branch and spend an hour to open a new account. They want to do everything online. So how can you make new customer acquisition fast, quick, easy, secure, and still meet KYC requirements? That's number one. Number two, once you have acquired a new customer, how can you keep them safe and secure? Today, there are literally over 1 billion username, password, credentials that have been leaked on the dark web that you can buy. So passwords as a way to authenticate into systems is a paradigm that's becoming increasingly untenable. Even 2FA schemes that are based on RSA or SMS have known vulnerabilities. So how can you keep your users secure and provide them a way to authenticate into systems securely? That's number two. It's no surprise then that every year in the US, there's over 15 million people who are the victims of identity fraud, and that number is going up over 15% every year. And the cost of that identity fraud is over $16 billion a year. That cost is borne primarily by financial institutions like yourselves in the room. Just to give you one example of a type of identity fraud is card not present fraud. That's basically credit card fraud on the internet. As chip-based cards have rolled out, point-of-sale fraud has gone down, but card not present fraud has gone up. In 2016, it increased by 25% to over 4 billion, and is projected to increase another 80% by 2020 to be in excess of $7 billion. So, when we founded TrustedKey, we were focused on solving this set of problems with a comprehensive and fundamentally different approach. With TrustedKey, we enable you to onboard new users quickly, securely, and still enable you to meet your KYC requirements. We enable you to provision your users with a strong multi-factor way to authenticate into systems without the use of passwords anywhere in the system. We enable you to offer strong fraud prevention capabilities to your customers, and even enable additional value-added services like digital document signing with strong identity embedded into the documents for mortgage processing or other applications. So how do we do this? Before I show you a demo, I want to talk about 3 foundational technologies that we use. The first is obviously mobile phones. It's the one device that people always carry with them everywhere. We use the cryptographic processor in mobile phones to securely create and store cryptographic keys that are the basis of our authentication system. We also use the biometric capability, fingerprint, or whatever else might come next, as well as the phone camera. The next foundational technology we use is strong cryptography. Not only on the phone, but hardware-based signing, both on the phone as well as in the back end using hardware security modules. We also use the same public key infrastructure that much of internet security is based on. The last foundational technology is blockchain. And we use blockchain not just because it's a buzzword, but because it enables us to orchestrate an ecosystem of different players without any one player having to trust the private database of another player. Yet we do not put any PII on the blockchain. So let me show you how this works. So this is the TrustedKey app. Think of it as your secure digital identity wallet. The very first time the user installs and opens the app, before we do anything else, we have them secure it with either a PIN code or their Touch ID fingerprint. And it's only after they secure their app that we create a set of cryptographic credentials using the cryptographic processor. And we create it in a way that the private key can never be extracted from the device, not by the user, not by us, not by the bad guys. And that forms the basis of their cryptographic identity. The next thing we have the user do is register an email address. This email address will serve as their universal username that they can use anywhere to log into systems. Once they enter their email address, we send them an email. This is the only time we'll send them an email. And they can open that email on the device, click on the link, which will then invoke the TrustedKey app and complete the registration. Basically, what's being done is an association between that email address and the cryptographic credentials on this device for the user. So once that is done, if all you wanted to do was log into systems, you could actually stop there. But in this demo, I'm going to show you, we're actually going to show the new user opening a bank account. For that, obviously, you need something more, like government-issued credentials, driver's license, passport. So we work with a third party to enable users to onboard their driver's license or passport from over 180 different countries. The process is pretty simple. I'll show you a driver's license. The user scans the front and then the back, and we run through dozens of checks to make sure that the document is valid and is not tampered with in any way, digitally or physically. Once those checks have succeeded, we extract the data and have the user confirm the data. Of course, we also have to make sure that this document actually belongs to this user. So the next step, we actually have them take what's called a live selfie. This is our intern. And we make sure the user is live and compare their image to the image on their document. Once all the processing is complete, we basically issue a cryptographic equivalent of the physical document into their digital wallet. So you can see a Nebraska driver's license with all the same information that was in the physical document. Okay, now I showed you user onboarding. Let me show you how the user can use this system to open a new bank account. So this is a fictitious bank site, and the user comes to that site and clicks on open an account. The bank's telling them what information they're going to ask for, and then uses TrustedKey to ask for that information. So what you're seeing here is basically, for the developers in the room, it's just OAuth, OpenID Connect layered on top of OAuth, where the user's device is the identity provider. So the user types in that same email address that they registered. Because we have already registered it, we can send them a secure notification to their device. And when they unlock and open the TrustedKey app, it'll tell them exactly who is calling them and what information is being asked for. The user is in control of their information. Once the user decides to share that information, we package up the identity tokens that were issued to them and send it back to the requesting site. And there you have it. The bank has the information necessary to open that account, and you can see, just in a second, all the same information that was extracted from the phone. Okay, so that was new account opening. Let me show you how you can also log in from any system to that account. So in this case, the bank has an app on the phone, and the process of logging in is also very similar. It just uses OAuth. User clicks on login, types in their email address, which is their universal username, and a challenge is sent to their TrustedKey wallet. So in the background, what's happening is we send a cryptographic challenge to the TrustedKey app, and only the private key that the app encapsulates can answer that challenge. So there are no replay attacks, no dictionary attacks, because there are no passwords in the system. Okay? So once the user confirms, the login can complete. So this works from any browser, also from any app. So I showed you how to onboard a new customer and provide them a secure authentication mechanism. Now let me show you how you can enable fraud prevention. So let's imagine this bank wants to offer its users card protection services against credit card fraud. User clicks on card protection and scans their card. It can be any card as long as it's issued to them. So the bank can compare the name on the card with the name that was registered earlier with the driver's license. Once that registration process is complete, the bank can even offer the user a $50 credit. Why? Because the bank's now going to turn around and offer transaction protection services to merchants worldwide against this card. So let's see how that works. So here's a merchant transaction. Just any merchant. In this case, it's a electronics merchant. Some user's trying to buy a laptop for $1,400 and types in that same credit card number that the user had scanned earlier. So at this point, usually the merchant has two choices. Either accept the transaction and take the risk that this might be a fraudulent transaction and they'll get a chargeback, it might be out $1,400. Or they can take the risk to reject the transaction and turn away a good customer. Now with TrustedKey, they have a third choice. Because this card has been registered before, this retailer can call the web service offered by the bank to verify the transaction in real time. So in real time, during the transaction, the owner of the card gets a secure notification asking whether they approve or decline this transaction. If they approve, that approval is transmitted back to the merchant. If you decline, same order, confirmation requested to the user declines, and the transaction gets rejected. So what I showed you was an example of the TrustedKey open network, where there's users with the TrustedKey app, any number of issuing parties that issue them digital tokens that they store in their app and can share with any number of relying parties, such as the bank you saw. We tie it all together with blockchain infrastructure, so all the registration of tokens and credentials is on the blockchain. So relying parties can verify that those credentials and tokens are valid. As TrustedKey, we provide the software to tie all this together. But it's very important to note, we do not have any user PII or any proprietary data. Other than the email address, we have no user secrets, no passwords, no nothing. So that's the public model. We understand many banks will also want to offer this in a permission model, where they control who can connect to that network. So we also offer a permission models where you can put together a permission blockchain, and you can have a branded app without the TrustedKey branded app. You can have your own branded app that does the same thing. How do we offer that? It's through the TrustedKey platform with the digital identity wallet and the white label SDK that you can use to build your own digital identity wallet with your brand. We also offer a set of web services, many of which you saw, the token issuer, ID verification, login, also the transaction guard, and document signing that either we can run in the public model or you can run in the permission model in your environment. You can find more details about all this at our developer site, developer.trustedkey.com. There's SDKs, documentation, support, samples, and so on. So once again, we're TrustedKey. We're focused on secure digital identity. Come see us at the booth. We're also hosting a roundtable at lunch. We'll be happy to talk more about it with you. Let me take some questions. The first question, that's my favorite question. How do you support data migration? What happens when the user loses their phone, buys a new phone? So let me give you two answers. The first answer is, if the user loses their phone, you call us. We'll ask you your mother's maiden name and your first cat's name. And if you answer all those correctly, we'll migrate your credentials from the old phone to the new phone. If that was our answer, you should kill us, right? Because that's obviously not a very secure way. So we use the blockchain to enable users to transition their credentials from an old phone to a new phone under their control. We cannot do it for them, but we enable them to do that themselves. If you want to know more details, come talk to us at the booth. When you store keys on mobile, do you select the best option? Yeah, so that's a great question. So in the case where the hardware supports a cryptographic processor, obviously that's what we will use to create and store the keys in a way that can never be extracted. If a phone is an older phone that does not support that cryptographic processor, we can still create keys. They will be in ordinary storage, but the rest of the functionality would be the same. Okay? Yeah, so the question is about in what countries is your platform active meets graduation? This is actually our unveiling of the platform. We're already working with some initial customers here in the UK and in the US. But obviously, if you want to be amongst the early customers, come talk to us at the booth. We're starting to roll this out. I think this is the same question as before. Do you have a good solution for key recovery? I'm glad you're asking this because people understand this is actually the hardest part of the solution, is key recovery. And it's the same question as what happens when the user loses their phone or gets a new phone. And blockchain enables a pretty good solution, again, without compromising security and without putting somebody like us in control of the user's credentials. Users remain in control of their own credentials. Thank you very much.